Hello and welcome to this World Cup of Darts preview show. The PDC World Cup is taking place on the 12th to the 15th of June 2025, and joining me to preview all the action is a former World Cup quarter-finalist, Devon Peterson. Devon, welcome. Great tournament, isn't it?
Yeah, the World Cup is different. It has a lot of different elements. I think since the format change, where they had doubles, pairs in the beginning in the first round and then brought the singles, just didn't have that World Cup spirit. But now that there's pairs all the way through, it just creates a different dynamic, and certainly it can throw a different spanner in the works, obviously, for different teams.
Yeah, we've had lots of drama in pairs matches. You've been involved in some of them yourself. We also here recently had the international pairs for the first time at the MODUS Super Series. What is it about that pairs element that seems to make the game a little bit more dramatic?
I think it's the difference. It's the culmination of a few things. I think number one is wearing the jersey that has your surname on, but the country flag is prominent. So you're playing more for the country than you are individual. And then another thing is focusing not just the dynamic of you playing for yourself and competing and just keeping within a focus level. You also have to consider your partner as well. So keeping them motivated, making sure that the setup shots is for their favorite double and not yours predominantly. And then there's obviously the whole host of added elements where there's more players on the stage, less space. It's everything of the opposite of a normal game.
Our international pairs actually mirrored the success of pairs for different nations in the World Cup. There's only been 5 previous winners. Some countries seem to have dominated more than others. In terms of those winners, we can see the Netherlands, who, of course, Jimmy van Schie and Danny van Tripe won our international pairs at the Super Series, but they had plenty of success. England, predominantly with Phil Taylor and Adrian Lewis with 4 titles. Wales, Price and Clayton doing well. Peter Wright involved in both of Scotland's World Cup victories, and Simon Whitlock and Damon Heta in 2022 winning it for Australia, who've always been a decent force at the World Cup as well, reached the final, probably the most dramatic pairs match ever, 10 years prior with Paul Nicholson. What is it about these nations? Are these the teams that you would expect to be fighting at the top just because of the strength in depth they've got in darts there?
Yeah, I think it's probably based on how they obviously selected. So obviously having 1 and 2, you have Luke Littler and Luke Humphries.
Not bad.
Yeah, I mean there's a whole host of dynamics that come into that game. Both of them strong leaders. So in a pairs event, there has to be a leader and somebody that just kind of backs up. So depending on, I mean, both of them don't have massive egos, which is a great thing. And I think that the leading element is also one of those things. I think a challenge within it is, now that there's so many good players, it's not just about performing and getting that. There has to be an element of camaraderie as well. So I think that just having the top 2 players, they might not be the best of friends.
Everyone thinks back to that Phil Taylor, James Wade team, who were 1 and 2 in the world at the time, but lost to Spain in the opening round.
Yeah, and I think that kind of just chemistry between the players, it's also just personalities that come together as well. So I think with all of those in place, I mean, a lot of the times the 2 players that are selected 1 and 2 are generally friends because they're traveling a lot together. Obviously international compatriots as well, and just colleagues and also enemies on the hockey. But you spend so much time in the back room, in the players' room, with all of the same of the players because they rank so high. So they tend to get to the latter stages. So, I mean, yeah, I think the most important thing there is the camaraderie that needs to be in existence.
And you mentioned that was definitely prevalent in some of the teams that have had good runs. Austria, Belgium, they've made finals before as well. Belgium, in fact, a team of brothers in the past. So that camaraderie is really, really important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the almost somebody taking the lead if one is falling down, and just knowing that I'll carry the team and I'll know that when you come, and I'll trust that you will come. It's the trust in the other player's ability, obviously, and knowing that they're great on their own, but as a pair, I mean, there is a lot of dynamics that comes into that. But like you said, I mean, the importance is having that partnerships. I did like the fact that when PDC invited or selected the top player and invited the second player, that was always great, because it meant that they can actually choose the partnership, because everybody knows exactly what happens behind the scenes. PDC knows, so you can then create a power team as well. So yeah, I think that the PDC definitely got it right. I feel as though this year is going to be slightly different, with a few shocks, obviously, with players staying out of the teams and not part of the bigger nations.
Yep, a lot of nations in action, 40 in fact, playing in the World Cup of Darts in 2025. Here are all of them. Devon, are there any surprise inclusions there, and are there any nations that perhaps you would have liked to have seen, or you think we will see in the future?
I think immediately just South Africa flag there, not because it's the prettiest or sexiest, but also just the continent itself, the size. So I think that another African country would be amazing there, like the likes of Kenya, Uganda as well, Tanzania, all prominent. But I do think that there's a lot more Asian dominance in what we currently have right now, and the tour itself, obviously them growing the sport in Europe, number one, and number two is obviously the Asian tour as well, which is part of it. So I think the PDC obviously growing, probably have it right now, but I think that the expansion of the sport and also the popularity, there's going to be some flags that's going to be needed to be added there.
And we're going to start seeing more players at the World Championship, which means more players from more countries. They'll get a bit of a platform like we give them here at the Super Series, and that might just make the selectors maybe stand up and take note of the depth of talent around the world.
And I feel as though that is very much the truth currently now, because when if I speak exactly about Africa, when I spoke about Kenya, people thought that, yeah, I mean, Kenya, who plays darts there? Then we had the likes of Peter Washuri coming in, just taking the world by storm in a sense. And there's many other players like him. I mean, in Nigeria, Uganda, Tanzania, I've mentioned them before. I mean, we've got in Namibia, Botswana as well, and Lesotho. So you look at all of these areas, and the only way they improve, and the reason why South Africa has been on this trajectory or the momentum upward, is because my inclusion into the PDC or adding on to the events that I play in, so they can watch and they can aspire. And I think that just has a knock-on effect. We've seen it in Asia, we've seen it in Europe, and I'm sure that it's going to take over in the world as well.
Format, look, everyone's been clamouring for years for it to just be purely pairs, and the PDC have finally introduced that. But there is one sort of strange little quirk in the format where 4 nations are seeded. They miss out on the group stages, so everybody else has played 2 matches before they play 1. What do you think of that?
I actually, it's a bias, if I must call it that. It's biased because you want those nations to actually go through, no stumbling blocks, and we do know that those are the higher ranking nations as well. So they do add obviously to the ratings, obviously the watchability of it, and also just the popularity of the tournament. So when I say bias, I mean I say it in jest, simply because if it's a World Cup and everybody's starting at the same round, you'll get the very best to obviously come through anyways. They're just securing obviously the ratings and everything else. But I feel as though, I mean, what's going to happen is with the countries that are playing in the first round and having more exposure, getting that almost gelling opportunity on the stage as well. For many, like for myself and Cameron, it will be the first time we play as a pairs partnership on the stage as well. So I think that things like that give, I'm going to say a smaller advantage, but many of the top teams obviously tiered at the higher, they are already in form. So it's going to be, I mean, when it happens, you'll see whether that seeding is probably correct. But I'm glad that it's expanded on the tournament and the players that are in it as well.
Let's have a look at those 4 seeded nations then for this World Cup. I mean, look at that. Number 1, Luke Humphries and Luke Litley. You could not have a higher ranked pair. World number 1, world number 2, the last 2 world champions. Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton for Wales, Gary Anderson and Peter Wright for Scotland, and then Northern Ireland becoming 4th seeds, Josh Rock, who's in great form, Daryl Gurney alongside him. Let's talk about the Lukes to start with. Look, Phil Taylor and Adrian Lewis is going to take some beating as a World Cup pair, but does this have the potential to be the best pair ever?
Yeah, I think on stats, I mean, we watched a couple of days ago just the Premier League and just kind of how they performed in one of the best matches in the Premier League, 115 and 110. You almost feel as though if they have that scoring power when it comes over to the pairs, it's going to be hard to kind of compete because they're going to go up against each other as well to see who can throw the most 180s, because the confidence and the comfortability and both the camaraderie of the 2 players as well. I mean, it's almost impossible for them to lose, but because it's a pairs opportunity, there is the dynamic of them losing.
Yeah, because we haven't seen them play together before. We have seen Price and Clayton play together, and they've got that camaraderie that you mentioned before, haven't they?
Yeah, one's a leader, one's a follower, and it swaps in the games as well. Sometimes Gerwyn Price is strong on scoring, Johnny Clayton mops up in the end, but just the contributing factors, just making sure that, I mean, there's 4 turns that you come, and then the finished 15, because if you're throwing a ton average in a pairs match, it's phenomenal. And a lot of those top nations, they have that capability of achieving that.
The Scottish team, Peter Wright and Gary Anderson. I mean, Gary seems to be in the form of his life. If he can take that to the stage, he can maybe help lift Peter Wright a little bit, because he has been going through a few issues, hasn't he, the last year or two?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that this is the time where, I mean, as players, we're always competing. So if you're competing against Peter Wright, you actually don't want to play the informed Peter Wright. You want to play the Peter Wright of today. When they're playing as a partnership, I think that is a different dynamic that comes forward, because now Gary Anderson's going to be more encouraging him, and the way in which he'll do it is very much a Gary Anderson kind of get your finger out. Let's do this for Scotland, and both players are proudly Scottish as well.
And just one very quick word on Northern Ireland. Josh Rock, Brendan Dolan was a mainstay of that team, but Rock and Gurney, that looks tasty, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, the form Josh Rock is in now is fantastic, and I think that we'll want to see what it's like. But I think both players do have that personalities, that very strong one. So, choosing a leader and a follower there is going to be tough, and we'll see how they gel.
Yeah, they're the seeded teams. After the break, we'll discuss some of the other teams to watch at the World Cup of Darts 2025. Welcome back to this very special preview show of the World Cup of Darts 2025. Alongside me to preview the action, Devon Peterson, the South African captain. Devon, we've been talking about the top teams. What's your experience there going in as one of the sort of underdogs? How exciting is it to be mixing with these big players? Not just for you, but particularly for the partners that you've taken that maybe don't have the same experience that you have.
Yeah, I think it's long been known and never a secret that predominantly most of the time when I do play in the World Cup, it's always a player that is an amateur that hasn't had any PDC experience or had limited PDC experience. I think me going in there is always motivating them to the maximum and making them believe that they are as good as everybody else, and just know that because I'm standing next to you, we're already winning. And that mentality has seen us through and getting us through different rounds, difficult rounds. We've beat the likes of Scotland in a few events past. We've done, I think we've done an upset with Ireland as well, on Northern Ireland, Brendan Dolan and them. And many of the other victories that we've achieved as well. You realize very quickly that partnership and just gelling together, it's so important. And knowing that it's a pairs event, yeah, the motivation is always key.
Right, let's have a look then at some of the teams to watch in the tournament. Devon, unfortunately, you haven't made the cut, mate. Not on that list there, but Damon Heta and Simon Whitlock, former winners. Whitlock, though, no longer has a tour card. He's been playing here at the Super Series instead, so that's going to be a very difficult draw for anybody. And I'm also going to ask you about another former winning team in the Netherlands, Danny Noppert and Jan van Veen. That's an interesting pairing. Now, had Michael van Gerwen been playing, they would have been one of the seeds, but they're not in the seeds now, and they're a danger, aren't they? A dark horse.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a dark horse. I think this seeding, yeah, these partnerships to watch, they could have easily been seeds as well, and in previous formats they probably would have been. I think that, like you said, Damon Heta and Simon Whitlock, fantastic players, and also lifted the trophy, so they know exactly what it's like to play together and to win together. I think that Danny Noppert and Gian van Veen, that is a partnership. Gian's scoring ability, as well as just Danny's solid kind of anchoring man. I think the two of them will perform phenomenally well. They're both almost shy in their own self, very introvert, so that will also lead. They won't need to be kind of vocal. They'll just be quietly kind of just plodding along. But it's nice to see that you've added Dimitri van den Berg and Mike de Deck as well. Dimitri had some challenges off the hockey as well, and now coming back into the team. I think this is exactly what Dimitri needs as well, just to get that platform and just find his feet.
Interesting dynamic with Austria, because Mensah Suljovic has made the final with Roby John Rodriguez. Now he's going to play with Rusty Jake Rodriguez. Yeah,
it's crazy though, that family and Mensah, the relationship and the history there. There was an image that Roby took with Mensah so many years back, and then obviously partnering, getting to the final. And Rusty is a very strong character. In stature they're not tall, they're not big, but just in personality, Rusty is going to be part and parcel, and it's almost the old and the new guard coming together and just leading. So Mensah's certainly captaining the squad, but he will allow Rusty to be Rusty on that stage and just take the lead as well.
Poland were there as well. Krzysztof Ratajski returned to winning ways recently. They've got the record average in this format. Also, Germany, is Martin Schindler and Ricardo Pietreczko, is that the best chance so far for Germany to win on home soil?
I'm not too certain about that. I mean, both players, different characters. I know that Martin Schindler and Gabriel Clemens, great partnership simply because of the chemistry they do have. They're close friends as well, so they would have been playing together, partnering together. I think the element that does strike me with Martin being in top form, Pietreczko also showcasing, almost coming into every event as an underdog and showing that he's not actually an underdog. So until somebody actually, or people notice that he's not, I mean, that could be a little dark horse there more than Gian van Veen and Danny Noppert.
Plenty of MODUS Super Series representation at this year's World Cup of Darts as well. This time, Devon, you do make the cut. Yourself and Cameron Carolison have both played here. Darius Labanauskas, of course, a former Super Series champion with Mindaugas Barauskas for Lithuania. Kåre Decker and Kent Civson taking place for Norway. Actually, a full team there. Craig Galliano and Justin Hewitt represented Gibraltar in the international pairs here. The same team will feature in the World Cup. The French team, that's a team that people have been clamouring for a long time, isn't it? Thibaut Tricol and Jacques Larbre, and they're now a mainstay of the World Cup. And Stefan Belmont's been very successful as well, captaining that Switzerland team. Who's got the best chance out of that? Is that a stupid question?
Yeah. It definitely is. I think just based on performances-wise, I mean, it's great to see Gibraltar as well. Again, I think it's the 6th time that they've qualified as a pair. I think, like you said, Stefan Belmont really playing well. Thibaut Tricol as well, and Jacques. The two of them, I mean, we've come up against them as well in the event. They've done us in that, but I think that where we find ourselves, I mean, especially with myself and Cameron Carolus, and just knowing how hungry he is for that. Me as well, just wanting to return to the PDC with all that strength and stature that I had before. And it's not to prove a point to anybody else. It's just a return to say that I've come through the darkest. I've now returned to the PDC stage, and returning as part and parcel of a South African team, that's going to just be, just going to give us a lot more strength and power. So I feel as though our performance, if you're looking at those, I think, we'll definitely lead in that.
We can now hear from one of the participants of the World Cup of Darts, having played recently here at the MODUS Super Series. Norwegian representative Kent Civson is talking to Paul Nicholson.
Kent, fantastic that you're going to be representing Norway at the World Cup. You must be very excited about it.
That is exciting, yes. I tried to qualify for this last year too, so I did, but I couldn't go because something happened in my family. But now this year, I'm ready to go for the World Cup.
Is this going to be the proudest moment of your career to date?
Yes, I think so. I think it's the biggest moment for me in also the darts. All the time I play darts, so this is the biggest one.
Have you spent much time with Kåre Decker? Because obviously we know he's a fantastic player. He's had a 9-darter on the European Tour, and he is a tour card holder now. So what is your chemistry like with him?
We don't play so much other than when we meet in competitions in Norway, but because we live so far away from each other. But he's a brilliant player, and I'm looking forward to playing with him.
What is darts like in Norway these days? We tend to look at results from the Nordic and Baltic circuit, and we look at nations like Sweden, Finland, Norway. What's it like there now?
It's getting really hard to get through. Many good players are coming through now, so Norway has just started to play in the Nordic and Baltic Pro Tour. Many people from Norway trying to come through. So I started this for 2 years ago, trying to come through. So I was lucky one to get the most points, so I qualified for the World Cup.
Do you know much about the venue for the World Cup? Because it is a venue that has held ice hockey and things like that. Have you heard anything about it?
No, I've never been there, not heard so much about it, no.
Well, I can give you some advice, Kent. It gets very warm in June in Frankfurt, so make sure that you're nice and cool for that experience. We wish you all the best.
That sounds good.
Norway's Kent Civson there talking to former World Cup finalist Paul Nicholson. And it's reached that time where I'm going to ask Devon Peterson to give his predictions. I'm going to ask you for 3 predictions here, Devon. So first of all, who's going to win the World Cup? Second one's going to be the dark horse, a team that could maybe reach the final or go on and win it as an outsider. And then someone who might be a real surprise package that could maybe get through their group or produce some performances that might be unexpected.
I think for me, the team that potentially could win it or will win it, it's hard to look past Luke Littler and Luke Humphries. I think that it's England's chance to obviously get back to just be on the podium again. And then a team that has an outside chance, I will go with a Netherlands. I think where I see, especially Gian van Veen's performances now, just really good, and Danny Noppert able to kind of just cement himself in there. And I think a team to watch is potentially going to be Germany. I think that there is a little bit of, especially with the form that Martin Schindler's in, and Petrescu, I've seen how he was throwing and how the comfortability and just the ease. I think that also on home soil, they'll get a bit more. I mean, there'll be a lot more whistles when the other players are throwing, which is going to happen anyways. But I think that just the celebration and the motivation for them is going to be off the chart. So yeah, Germany definitely for me as a dark horse.
Yeah, and they will have home support as well. Look, we had our international pairs event here, the first one. The second one's coming up as well later in the year. People can't get enough of pairs. It was really well viewed. Every bit of feedback on social media was fantastic. The whole spectacle here of the International Pairs Week was marvellous. Of course, it mirrored the first World Cup as well, with Netherlands beating Wales in the final. What do you love? Forget about being part of playing it. What do you love about watching pairs darts?
I think it's just because the sport itself is such an individual sport, and the pairs brings the dynamic of it's different faces on the stage all together at once. So there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of players. It's also that seeing a camaraderie between the players. I think people like to see that. That's why football is such an important sport. Rugby is seen as one of the greatest in South Africa, dominating in there. But you look at all of those elements, and just these team sports are highly viewed sports. I mean, golf, which is an individual sport, not as highly viewed, but enjoyed by most. Where we find it now is the sport of darts is obviously moving into the space. And I mean, you guys have done a fantastically great job with airing that and then creating that event itself. And I think that it moves into the future of just showing that it can happen. It's a great spectacle to watch, and fans are really, really interested.
Yeah, and our format doesn't quite allow for 40 nations to compete, just the 12, which is why that next time we are going to really shake it up and have different countries involved. We've already announced 4 of them. Jeff Smith and Dawson Michel will represent Canada. The winning nation of the Netherlands will return with the same pairing of Jimmy Van Ski and Danny Van Tripe. Sweden, we're going to see the former Super Series champion Andreas Harrison and Anton Östlund. And of course, South Africa, the return of Simon Adams alongside Devon Peterson. How much are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you guys sent the invite and I saw that it was with Simon Adams, it's one of those things where when Simon came here, he obviously showed exactly why he deserved to be here, number one. And number two is he always just exudes this kind of energy that's so contagious. And I feel as though with partnering up with him on the MODUS Super Series stage, where he made a massive name before he even went to the PDC World Championships, he's looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it, and I think that the stage has been great to both of us. And yeah, I think that we're gonna surely be there on the Saturday and celebrate a victory.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Good luck in that. Good luck in the World Cup of Darts as well. Look, from this pair, thank you very much for watching this World Cup preview. It should be a fantastic event, as will the International Pairs Week here at the MODUS Super Series. And previous one, there is plenty of highlights on our YouTube channel and across the Pluto TV channel, 24 hours a day. Stream now, pay never.